That's right, boys. Jagex just announced a brand new Slayer boss, and this changes everything. Don't you love that trope? It rarely changes anything, and definitely not everything. But this one does change every melee setup in the game, so it's worth you paying attention to. We're getting yet another spider boss, but this one, it looks a little bit cooler to me. There's a lot more spikes and a lot more detail going on here. Some of you might recognize the name Arraxor from the boss from RuneScape 3, but other than being a spider, having the same name, and maybe some other lore that I'm gonna ignore entirely, they are going to be nothing alike. In RuneScape 3, Arraxor is an endgame encounter, but this is going to be a farmable Slayer boss, meaning that it's not going to be too difficult. Jagex stated in their news post that they wanted to try to strike a good balance with the difficulty. This boss is to be more interesting than the Kraken, but also not so much of a slog as the alchemical Hydra. I personally dread doing Hydras, not because it's not good money, it is, but it just takes forever. They haven't discussed any of the mechanics with us yet, which personally I love. There is nothing that's more fun than trying to figure out the new boss's raids right on release. Also, being among the first to bring new equipment into the game always has its financial advantages. I remember Fangs from Toa were like 400 mil for the first week or two. They did tell us a few of the things that the fight will have. The difficulty is going to scale kind of similar to Arraxor, where if you ignore the minions, you're going to get faster KC, make more money, but you might have to deal with some additional mechanics or just tank more damage. They have stated that there will be smaller minions. This will involve venom in some way, shape, or form, and most importantly, that this is going to be a melee-only boss. That's right, scythes to the moon, boys. About time they showed my favorite weapon a little bit of love. Okay, here's the part that everybody actually cares about. Being a Slayer boss, it only makes sense that there will be a Slayer helm. It has a few extra eyes on it, which is cool and like thematically accurate. Collectors of Slayer helms will enjoy this, but this isn't really moving the needle for me personally. There is a pet, and honestly, at first, I wasn't super thrilled because we already have a bunch of spider pets in the game. There's the wildy spider, daddy longlegs, and even a sexy spider lady for those of you who are into that sort of thing. But this guy is kind of adorable and looks like one of those little jumping spiders that we have here in Chicago. They're literally the best. Just look at this guy. Jagex is also toying around with the idea of making the jar of venom an untradeable item. I really like this. I think they should have done this for all of the jars. Kind of hard to go back now since so many people have bought them all for their POH, but it makes it more of a flex item and just like a little bit more exclusive and something for endgame players to go for. It also looks like they're going to make teleport scrolls for this boss tradable, which is fantastic. My biggest problem with Cerberus is that those Keymaster teleports are, one, super rare from the boss, so you barely ever get them. And also, they're untradeable. Dude, I would pay like 250k each for those bad boys right now. I just do not like that boss, solely because it is so difficult to get to and from him. Looks like I missed one, but he's also going to drop his venom glands. Basically, these are going to be used to give you 20 seconds of venom immunity. I think just consuming them straight up is going to be like a one-off use if you're right near the end of a kill and want to like squeak out one more for the end of your trip, because it just doesn't really make sense to be taking, 4 venom damage just to get 20 seconds of immunity. But the cool thing with these is that they are an herb lore secondary, and we're going to be making extended anti-venom pluses. Right now, the anti-venom plus gives you 3 minutes of venom immunity, and these are going to give you 6, which is going to see play at both Vorkath, Zulrah, and of course Arraxor. Next up, we have our first piece of actual gear that comes from the boss, and these are going to be in the boot slot. We have the Arania boots. These have some very minor bonuses, but they will negate the effect of spider webs. These are going to work for Verzic's webs. Venenatus's webs won't drain run energy, and they will completely negate Arachnis's bind. Arachnis is really the only place that I can personally see this getting a ton of play. Getting out of that bind attack every time he does it is going to greatly speed up kills, and I think that's going to give you more DPS than having Prims would. All of the Verzic webs are avoidable, and you should never run into them anyways. The Venenatus ones, unless you're frozen by a PKer, should not be a threat either. And we are yet to see if this is going to see a ton of play at Arraxor, but since it does come from Arraxor, I could see Jagex making this relevant. Move over, Challie, because there's a new halberd in town. We have the Noxious Halberd. So this isn't actually going to replace the Challie's as spec weapon. This is going to be more based on DPS. Just with the base stats alone, the Halley should be around the same DPS as a Salad Blade, but since 4-tick attack weapons scale more with gear, it's not actually going to be competitive at that level. Now, as the name Noxious Halberd would suggest, this is also going to have a chance to venom your opponents. This will have a special attack. I don't really think this is going to get used at all. Basically, you can cure any poison or venom, and the amount of that poison or venom that you were going to get hit, you're going to get that percentage boost in your accuracy and damage. So even to get the 20% boost, which, you know, it's okay, it's not super game changing, you need to be at a max venom and already be taking 20s. I just don't see any place in the game where you're going to let the venom get that bad on you before using the special attack. Jagex is unironically saying that you should be using this at Verzik to avoid the bounce. If I see you in my top using this on Verzik, and here we are, the actual crown jewel of this new boss, the Amulet of Rancor. This like kind of actually does change everything. Now I do really wish that they showed this up against Blorva instead of the Tin Man Torva. Don't really dig the way it looks, but that's not really what's super important. They can come out with a cool looking ornament kit later. The Amulet of Rancor is going to be a direct upgrade from the Amulet of Torture. Here's the stats, and just so you don't have to pull up your Torture next to it, let me put them both on the same screen. The Rancor is going to give us a +5 in all of our accuracy stats over the Amulet of Torture, and it's also going to give us 2 melee strength. If we look over to the Amulet of Blood Fury, which is also used in some endgame content, this is going to give us a +10 in all of the accuracy. It's not going to give us any of the defense bonuses that the Fury gives us, but as we know, defense doesn't really matter all too much in Old School RuneScape. The best defense is killing the boss faster and thus taking less damage, and it's going to give us a +4 in strength over the Blood Fury. Luckily, Jagex lets us keep our +2 prayer bonus. Not that it would really like make or break it, but it's always nice to have. So why is this super important? I ran one calculation and one calculation only. I don't have that much time right now. I'm in the process of moving in real life, but I did max melee scythe and on P2 Verzik. So max melee scythe gains 1 max hit with the Amulet of Rancor as long as the DPS calc is correct. And it does gain 0.3 DPS overall over the Amulet of Torture, which, you know, it's not nothing, but it's not really that massive. Where we really see the big difference is the gap between the best in slot Amulet, the new Rancor, and the Amulet of Blood Fury. Well, before, a lot of setups didn't really gain or lose a max hit with the Amulet of Torture versus the Blood Fury. The Blood Fury was the more attractive choice in this because you sacrifice a little bit of accuracy, but you get all of that healing. But as this gap widens, you're getting more DPS for that lack of healing, and the Amulet of Rancor in this case becomes a much more attractive choice in certain scenarios where you would want more damage and you don't really need that healing. But honestly, I'm not sure if this is like a big enough difference to make me switch using Blood Fury in the places where I use Blood Fury. Right now, I'm not really using Blood Fury at the Theater of Blood at all, like maybe in hard mode, but not in the normals. I'm probably not going to see myself switching away from the Blood Fury at Toa. Maybe I'll try it out here and there, try to get like 2 downs and 3 downs a little bit easier depending on Invocation. But at next, you're not going to switch away from the Blood Fury. But anyways, if you're like a much more competent player than myself, it might make a lot more sense for you to bring it over the Blood Fury in places where you do gain some max hits and that extra little bit of accuracy. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed me sitting here reading you the news article. If you did, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I have much more interesting content on there, and I will see you in the next video.